Hi, everyone. You're listening to the Bold Little Minds MomCast, a podcast where we talk to incredible moms who share their unique journey to motherhood, practical tips, and some of our favorite low-prep activities so you can enjoy that hot cup of coffee. I'm your host, Krissy. I'm a mom of 2 boys. I'm glad you're here with us, so pop in your earbuds and let's have some fun. Welcome to the Bold Little Minds MomCast. My name is Krissy. I am a mom of 2 young boys, and I am so happy that you are here with me today. I had such a busy week. I launched a brand new product. If you haven't been on my social media, I recently released my activity menus that I am so excited about. It's on Etsy. I put it out there into the world. I finished developing it, packaging it, all of those things. But I also launched at 2 brand new retail locations. So this was a very busy week for me. On Friday, I went to 3 of my different locations that I'm selling my products at, my coloring books and my activity books and my activity menus now. And I stocked those up, including 2 brand new displays after doing a lot of mock-ups at home and all of the different background work that goes into planning 2 brand new displays. So it was a lot of work, but it was so fulfilling and it was so fantastic to do. I'm glad that it's behind me and that now I'm just in this stream of marketing and restocking and doing all of those things, but I'm no longer planning that original phase, which is really nice to have it behind me. I would love for you to check out my activity menus on Etsy and my activity books on Amazon. I appreciate all of the support so many of you have offered me, even through your engagement on my Instagram or commenting and liking on these podcast posts. Everything means so much and really helps me to reach other moms so we can continue this mission of sharing stories and having moms feel heard, which is so important. It's a space that needs more work for sure. On this week's episode, we have Andrea. Andrea is passionate about mental health. She works to support mental health in moms and also in children, and helping moms support their children's mental health, because that's something that as moms, we don't know how to help them with a lot of times. We can put a Band-Aid on the boo-boo, or we can offer some Tylenol for a fever, but we can't necessarily help them with their mental health all on our own. This is something that we need some support with and we need strategies for. And Andrea is dedicated to helping us fill that bucket and get some strategies and some tools that we can really use to help our children with their struggles that they're going to face throughout their lives. And one of the things that we talk about is anxiety in children and how that is such an increasing problem, or at least a problem that we're noticing more often, right? It might not be increasing, but it's something we're recognizing more. And we're seeing it in our babies too. We talk about how both of us saw anxiety in our babies. And it's just mind-boggling to me because as an adult, you don't really think about those pieces. One thing I want to point you towards that is really fantastically timed is one of my favorite follows is the Parenting Translator. She has an Instagram page and a Substack with a newsletter where she dives into research that comes out about different topics that have to do with parenting. And she takes the research and puts it in layman's terms and really weeds out some of the nuance, compares it with other research that's been out there, and helps you see which parts of the research you should be taking away and applying and which parts you can be taking with a grain of salt. One thing that she also does is she takes viral videos and finds the truth within them. One thing that went viral recently was called the hurried child syndrome. It was a conversation between 2 women who were talking about how their mother saying, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, caused anxiety, this hurried child syndrome. And that's the main reason that they now, as adults, are suffering with anxiety disorders. And we all know that there's never one thing that contributes to something like an anxiety disorder, but is this something that is a number 1 cause, as they're claiming? And the Parenting Translator finds that no, this is not the number 1 factor. In fact, only 4% of our parenting decisions translate into chronic anxiety through several research studies. From what I took away from what she wrote is that the majority of it is genetics. Of course, there's nature and nurture, but no one thing is going to be the cause for chronic anxiety and anxiety disorders. Now, more importantly, this is obviously something that could be stressful for children and could lead to chronic anxiety with a lot of other things that might be impacting their livelihood. So she gives a lot of really great suggestions on if you find yourself saying, hurry up, what you can do to help combat that and to model good time management, to model good coping strategies, to model your coping with your own anxiety to help your child prepare to cope with their anxiety as they grow up. So I definitely encourage reading that Substack if anxiety is something that you are curious about. Reach out to her, find her resources, and take a look at that, because I found that study to be really reassuring, because as a mother of a child who shows anxiety symptoms, of course I'm thinking, what did I do? And it's comforting to know that it is very likely not something I did. It came from his genetics. But what I can do as a mom is help him come up with strategies to fight that and to cope with that. I hope that you find something in this podcast that will help you inform your parenting and make you feel more confident in helping your child navigate their mental health and in navigating your own mental health. Please take a moment to rate and review this podcast. It truly does make a difference. If you're watching on YouTube, click that little thumbs up and that subscribe button. Leave a little comment down on the bottom. It helps with the metrics and helps us get out into the world. If you're on Spotify or Apple, make sure you're clicking that plus button and leaving a little rating and review as well. Sharing with your friends goes a long way as well. I appreciate every share that goes out on social media and every comment that I receive on the reels that I share. If you'd like to share your story, I'm not looking for experts, I'm looking for moms. I love to share any mom's story out there because you all have something to share. I'm booking as many interviews as I can right now to prepare for the busy holiday season, because I know once November and December hit, I'm not going to be finding a lot of times where we're going to mesh up our schedules. So get on my books now so that way we can get your interview out into the world sometime this year or beyond. I would love to start planning for a 2025 with you. How wonderful would that be? I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Andrea, and please let me know what you think. Thank you so much. Enjoy the show. Thank you for listening to the Bold Little Minds MomCast. I am here today with Andrea. Andrea is a mom of 2 kids, ages 16 and 14, and she's a small business owner and passionate about supporting mental health, which is one of my favorite topics. So thank you so much for joining us today, Andrea.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to talk about all the things.
All the things, right?
All the things.
Not just mental health, because all of it's mental health.
Mhm.
Like, as you
Yeah.
say, yesterday I was watching your story and you said everybody has mental health. This is not an issue. This is not a thing. This is just, we all have it. So whether you are
Yeah.
struggling with it or not, we have to support each other.
100%.
I love it. So tell me a little bit about yourself, like who you were before becoming a mom. What is your crazy journey that's brought you here today?
So before becoming a mom, I got my bachelor's in psychology. So mental health and just that field has always been something that's just so important to me, and I've just been so interested in. And really what my initial plan was to continue on my education into my master's and my doctorate and do some sort of therapy work, but that didn't happen.
Sure, yeah.
I got side railed, and I did have my kids. I had my daughter. And, it's funny that when I had my daughter, it was almost like something clicked in me. Like, this is where I'm supposed to be. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. Before that, I never really felt like at ease. Like, I always felt like I was looking for something, or maybe this isn't right. And I was constantly like searching. And then when I had my daughter, I was like, this is it. Like, this is okay. Like, I feel good. And then that's what I did. I stayed home with my kids and I put everything else aside. And that's my journey so far. Like, that was who I was. I was kind of just in this space, kind of knowing where I wanted to go. I also hated school. So then the
Okay.
thought of like, oh my gosh, like I have all of these levels to go through was kind of
Right.
like, oof, okay.
Right, right. And I'm sure you still are learning from everything and reading or other resources, videos, who knows, like it's so accessible these days to learn from experts that you don't necessarily have to sit in a course that's timed on not on your own pace and not with your interests. So I'm sure that you're still doing all kinds of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I was going to say too. Like, it's been amazing, all of the opportunities that are just right on my computer. And it's just so much easier for me to work like that and learn like that. But I have taken so many courses. I have, and I'm still doing it. It's constant education and constant learning, but just in a way that is so much better for my brain.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And it's so beautiful what you said of like coming together as a mom. I feel that way as well. Like I feel like
Mhm.
all of my past experiences have kind of led me here. And this wasn't my planned journey. It's not where I was intending to go, but now that I'm here, it just all makes sense. So I
Yeah.
resonate with that piece a lot.
Yeah, definitely.
So you have two older kids, right? 16 and 14. So you've been through it. You have a lot of wisdom for us here to share. So tell me about your transition to becoming a mom. I know for me, 0 to 1 was rough. I don't
Yeah.
know about you.
Yeah. It definitely was rough, and it was definitely, even though I felt like, "Oh my gosh, this is where I'm supposed to be," there was still obviously, like, so many questions and so many things because, we've never done this before, right? So, there's no handbook. So, it was definitely a rough one. My daughter was not the easiest baby, and neither was my son.
Yeah.
My son was colicky, and my daughter was just, from the minute she was born, when I say anxious, like,
Yeah.
it was all over her. The transition and just trying to figure out, like, this new path and new routines and all of those things and what she needs, it was definitely a learning experience, and it's something that we still take through to this day. I feel like it's constantly, as they're changing, I have to change as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it was just all over the place. But
Yeah.
we did it. And then when my son was born, it's funny because my gynecologist was like, I was like, talking about the pregnancies and stuff, and she was like, "That's a different baby. Like that's a different
Yeah.
baby in there. So you're gonna have different feelings, and they're gonna be different." And then that carried through obviously into when he was born. And you have a thought in your head like, well, I already did this now. So now I got this. Like, I'm good. And then there's this brand new baby with all of his quirks and all of the things. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
let's go back to the drawing board and figure out what we need to do now.
Right. There's only so much you can carry, so much knowledge you can carry from one child to the next because they're so different.
Yes,
Like
definitely.
the basics of how to keep them physically alive are
Right.
fine, but the rest of it is totally different.
Exactly.
It's so funny because when you say the anxiety thing, I think my oldest is similar where he was always highly sensitive. We were
Mhm.
reading the baby books and trying to figure out how to help him and we're like, "Oh, yeah, he has all of these things. All of these things are rough for him." So it just shifts where how you approach things like crying and sleeping and all of those things. But before having kids, or if you don't have a kid who has like infant anxiety, you don't understand it. Like I remember being a teacher and having kids with anxiety and I'm like, how does a 10-year-old get anxiety? Like
I
give
know.
me a break. Like what is going on in that household that is giving this kid so much
Right.
anxiety? But it's just in you and you don't get that until you see it. And I mean, I have anxiety as well, so I feel it, but that's different because I'm an adult and I have a lot of experiences. So you don't know,
Right.
all of those things. But a kid, wow. Can you remember back to what kinds of things as a baby that you were seeing that were showing you like this seems like something's going on?
Yeah, yeah, and like you said, as an infant, before she could even talk, I noticed when there was a lot of noises or a lot of things going on, she would, like, kinda tense up, and she would, like, kinda, like, do this to her little baby arm, stuff like that, and I just see her, like, do this or make, like, little wincing faces and stuff. So that's kinda when I was just like, "Okay, like, that's, something to watch, and let's try to relax her and let's try to calm her." Then just as she got older, it just kept going and expanding from there. But even like you said, like with the crying and with bedtime and stuff like that, I just had to be close to her. I didn't have to be right
Mm.
with her, but I had to be close to her. And she sensed it. It wasn't just a crying as in, like, "I'm upset, I want you here." It was like a, "I'm freaking out,"
Yeah.
kind of a cry, It's definitely a different type of a cry.
Right.
So, as when, like, we say, like, with infant anxiety, that's what I was noticing. A lot of, like, her pinching her arm, her, like, scrunching up. Sometimes she'd, like, do this to her head.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. So, with the background in psychology, you had some knowledge of brain development and what's going on. I know that I took a couple courses in child development, and I think that made all the difference in a
Mhm.
lot of my early parenting decisions. And I mean, I'm still in early parenting. What am I saying? It doesn't feel like it right now, but I know I am. So tell me about how that impacted how you approached your parenting.
I definitely approached it with more of an open mind and more of psychology based and the whole child and working with their mind and development and all of that. But I also think, on the other hand, even though I had that degree, there was still so much more that I had to learn just in the environment and just in the situation. And then that's also where all of the courses that I started taking online and all of the research I started doing also came in. Because the BA in psychology, it gave me, I would just say, like a baseline.
Sure.
And then for me, I truly believe, and I think a lot of us do, that each individual then from there is completely different.
Yeah.
So there's no like one size fits all to anxiety or to depression or to any of these things that we go through. So then from there, it's kind of like let me try to put the pieces together and then figure out like what's best and how to help.
Right. It almost helps you realize what you don't know, right? So that
Yeah.
you know where to look. You recognize the gaps in your knowledge because of that baseline. It's more of informative of where you need to learn. So that's really
Yeah.
helpful.
Absolutely.
So where did you start to do some more research and studies? Are you a book person? Are you a TED Talk person, or a little of everything?
I love reading books, but not educational.
Yeah.
So definitely, honestly, my best friend was Google for a while. And I would just go through resources and try to find any articles that I could find from mental health organizations. And then I would do online courses where I would prefer the ones that were video. Sometimes you can't find those, but definitely just online courses and anything that, if I could find a TED Talk or if I could find anything that I could put in my ear while I'm walking,
Mm.
the best. But, you know,
Right. Right. Yeah. You make do, you try to figure it out. I think these days too, with Instagram and TikTok, I mean, you have these highly educated experts who are just
yes.
sharing their information for free in bite-sized snippets that you can actually just spend brushing your teeth looking at.
Yes,
And
and
that's
I've
amazing.
done that.
Yeah.
There's Dr. Amen, I'm not sure if you follow him,
Mm.
but he's like the top neuroscience. He's amazing, and he does that. He'll share like these little snippets, and then what I like to do is if something really piques my interest, I save that, and then I'll go back and research that, and I'll try to figure out more about that one topic and figure out, okay, well, how can I apply this? Would this help me and stuff? So
Right.
you're right. I love those little tiny pieces that you could kind of grab, and then if something really resonates, you could be like, oh, I should look into this further.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's so cool to be able to
Mhm.
do that. So, were you always planning to become a stay-at-home mom, or is that just something that kind of developed as your kids got older? You realized maybe that your family is benefiting from this, or was this your plan all along?
So it was not my plan all along.
Yeah.
I actually went back to work after my daughter was born, and I left when she was about 8 months
Yeah.
old just because I couldn't do it. I felt like I wanted to be there. And she was with my mom. Still, I just felt that like, no, I need to be there with her. I want to be there with her. I didn't want to miss anything. My husband is NYPD. He's a
Okay.
police officer, and his schedule was just all over the place. With her anxieties, and she also had a lot of health problems as a baby. She had bad asthma. And I'm just saying, I want to be there. I want her to have a routine. I want
Mhm.
her to have consistency. I want her to have all of these things. And I left and I never looked back. I loved it.
That's fantastic. I love that. So now you are in a different spot of it where a lot of our listeners are early on in their mothering. Please tell me the joys of all of this, because some days you need that reminder right now.
Oh my gosh. I know. I know. I could remember those days where you guys were at. And honestly, I'm going to tell you, and I know you probably hear this all the time, and it's a little bit annoying at this stage that you're in, but you just need to remember how quickly it goes. Looking back, my daughter is a senior this year, and my son just started his freshman year of high school. it was the blink of an eye. It was just in the blink of an eye. And I think the most, important thing when the days are just so hectic and so crazy is, number one, to remember this is going to pass, and it's going to pass so quickly that, yeah, it's wild right now, but it's going to be okay.
Right.
And you're not going to get these little days back with these little ones. I was having a little bit of a rough week with this, with my kids being so much older and but yeah, that's just enjoy it. Even the chaos.
Right. I remember hearing something with memes and all the things that go. There was one tidbit that was circling around for a long time, right when my baby was just born, of when you are at your end, just give this gift to yourself. Pretend that you are you from the future in this moment. And this is the moment that you've returned back to for if I could give anything for 5 minutes, I would. Like, this is my 5 minutes in the future. And
Yeah.
that really helped me to shift it of like, okay, let's soak this in. Let's remember it. Let's breathe. And because these are the things I'm going to want. And I'm a little bit of an older mom, so I think that puts it into perspective too, where I have friends who have already been through the whole thing. My cousin's daughter just graduated high school. So I've already seen the growth of a child all the way through in my adulthood of how is this person just graduating? So that puts it in a different perspective as well of like, wow, before I know it, I'm going to be in that shoe. So my husband and I will look at each other a lot and say, we are so lucky to be here right now. Like in this
Oh,
moment.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. And it's so true. I know everybody says it, time is a thief and in the blink of an eye. And it's just so true. It's just wild, like how quickly it'll just pass you by. So,
right. So tell me some of your favorite things that you have learned being a mom, as a mom, that you do to support yourself, because I think that's something that we're all struggling with right now in these days of parenting. Like, where do I even make room for me? So what are your tips on that?
Okay, so I would first like to preface this by saying that I did not always do this. I did not always do the mom self-care. I just want to say that. So it is normal to put yourself last, because I think that's what we totally do as moms and as parents, specifically moms though. But now what I've learned, and I've only learned this after I literally hit a rock bottom myself, is I have a morning routine where I like to get up before all of my family members and just take some time for me. And I do the same routine every day. I sit with my coffee. I write my to-do list, just certain things just to get my day going. I do a gratitude list, some affirmations. And honestly, it takes like 5 minutes. I don't have the time or the brain space to have to do something huge, right? So that's how I start my morning. I always take a walk, even if it's just around the corner. I need to get out and I need to get fresh air and I need to move my body. That's been extremely beneficial to me. And just community, like just finding a community, this community online. I mean, it's amazing now. Like, I have a lot of bad things to say about social media, but there's so many amazing positive sides to it. Like finding these communities that can help you and support you throughout your journey at whatever stage you're at.
That's really important, because we hear a lot now about, where's my village?
Right.
I was promised a village. Where is everybody? And it's not going to be handed to you. You have to build it and you have to do the work, and it doesn't have to be in person. And I think that's big, because a lot of us, I think post-COVID now has changed things about getting out. And like when your kid is sick with the sniffles, you're not necessarily going to go to that play space or the story time, whereas 6 years ago you might have. It's different now. Mom groups are just starting up again. When I had my babies, there were no postpartum mother groups, mommy and me groups. That didn't exist. It was all on Zoom, and I'm not making friends with a newborn on Zoom. I'm like, I did make one. I am very lucky that I did, but I know that that's the exception and not the rule. So building a community online, put the social back in social media, I guess, is the piece of it. Be social, reach out and find people that you can communicate with, because that's important. And my neighbors. I live in a neighborhood of Grammys. It's wonderful. Like I don't have a lot of moms in the neighborhood and kids, but living in a neighborhood of Grammys, I think, is better because
Yes.
everybody is into my kids and they come over or they give them the cutest little Christmas presents. And Halloween is, the best thing on earth. And so leaning into your neighbors and the people physically near you, because when you're
Yeah.
walking down the road, those are the people you're going to talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
So for somebody like me who has a hard time leaving the house because your kids might not be putting on clothes that day, and my kids are awake before me, and I'm
Hmm.
definitely not waking up at whatever it is to get up before them.
Yeah.
Where would you, looking back, because hindsight is 2020,
It-
where do you suggest that we find our nuggets of the day?
okay. This is a tough
I
question.
know, right? Please solve it for us.
This is a tough question. Oof.
Or do we
Oh
just
man,
hang on and
it
like fill
stumped
our
me.
water bottle and find the moment there to breathe and know that it's coming? That might
Yeah.
be it too.
No, I don't want to say that. I want you to feel like you have, I mean, listen, when I was there, we want to talk hindsight, it was going into the bathroom,
Yeah.
locking that door and just breathing a little bit, just to get that breather. If I knew my kids were safe, they're good, just a few minutes. Sometimes I needed that. If you have any sort of support, anybody who will watch your kids, even just for a little short piece of time, utilize it. Like I was so no, I need to do this. I need to be here. No, it's okay. Even with my mom, I would tag along. Why?
Yeah.
They're safe. They're okay. Give yourself the time to do whatever you want to do, which you could be just sitting on the couch staring into space if you need that. So I would definitely say if you're on that side of it like I was, let go a little bit and let people take your kids, let them be, and you have time for yourself. It's okay.
Yeah. I really appreciate you saying that because sometimes I look back. My husband is great and takes the kids for the most part after he gets out of work, mostly because we have a hard time co-parenting because my youngest is like physically attached to me. So he
Mhm.
can't play with the kids when I'm around because he just wants to be inside me again. And so he can actually play with them when I'm not there. So it works in my favor that this is kind of how it is. But I remember when I was pregnant with my second, I, spent a lot of time napping when I could and things like that. And I was looking back at the videos of my older one of him playing with my husband and being like, I missed that. I should have been there.
Right.
But you're there for so much of it. You don't need to be there for all of it. So I'm
Yes.
glad to hear somebody not living in
Yeah.
regret of wishing that they were there for all of it.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. Gotta let it go.
I'll work on that.
Let it go. Let it go.
I'd love to hear more about your journey raising children who have had mental health issues and hear how that kind of has evolved over time and all of that.
So the journey, lots of bumps,
Yeah.
lots of stumbles. My daughter, as I said, she was born with anxiety and it was just all over her. And as she grew older, it was getting worse and worse and worse. And she's actually at this point now at 16, she has been diagnosed with anxiety, depression, panic disorder, and bipolar 2. She was in 8th grade when she got the bipolar 2 diagnosis. And that's really when even my self-care, when I said I hit a rock bottom, that's where it was, because she was just at her lowest. And this is a child who has been in and out of therapy, who had me, who was working and researching and trying to work with her. And it just it hit her, and she had thoughts of suicide in 8th grade. And as a mom, all we want to do, I feel like, is just help your child, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially when they're sick, you feel that. So unfortunately, this isn't as easy as, oh, they have a fever, let's grab the Tylenol. Oh, geez, they fell down and sprained their wrist, let's get some ice and bandage it up. And as I said earlier too, like it's never a one size fits all. So I found myself in this place of just like spinning and researching, and my mind was constantly going, I'm missing something. What am I missing? What do I do? How do I help her? And the whole mental health field, it needs so much attention.
Yeah.
Trying to get a therapist, trying to find a
Yes.
psychiatrist, trying to work with insurance. Who doesn't call you back? Who has you have to wait 3 weeks or 4 weeks for an appointment? We were just like stuck, and it was just frustrating, and I was not caring for myself at all until, like I said, I hit rock bottom, and now here both of us are, and we're just like neither one of us could do anything. Meanwhile, I still have my husband, I still have my son,
Yeah.
So I just think that little piece actually like really opened my eyes to the self-care as a mom and as a caregiver, because if we fall, that's it, everything crumbles, right? And that's kind of when I realized I can't help her if I'm like this. I need to stop. I need to slow down. I need to take some time for myself and reevaluate the situation here. And I think that that was kind of like a transformation for me with my daughter and my son. My son has ADHD and anxiety that comes with it, and he's completely opposite of how she acts. So
Right.
I feel like in that too, and in the journey and just walking through it, it's having to constantly, okay, this is who I need to be for my daughter and what she needs. And then in a moment, snap out of it. And then this is what my son needs. So, there's different levels and and your brain just kind of has to flip like on a dime. So I think that was definitely something that I had to learn. I also had to learn patience, like patience that I've never thought that I could ever have.
Yeah.
And honestly, meeting them where they were, and always still meeting them where they're at, instead of, I could think, I still do it sometimes, like, well, what's the problem? Like, well, what's the problem? Like, come on, let's do this, let's do that. And then it's okay, no, she needs this and she can't do these things, and that's okay. But those thoughts and those things just come back constantly, just because I think that it's human nature, and you're just like, okay, like, hello. So I've definitely learned like a lot of that as well. And it's a continuous growing and changing as they grow and change as well, because what we're doing now wasn't the same, obviously, as when they were little. So we're just all growing together and learning together.
Sounds like you're wearing two very different hats with
Yes.
with both ends of this spectrum you've got going on here. Wow. I can relate to a lot of what you're saying, where you're trying to figure out how to help them and you don't know what's going on, and you're like, what is the big deal? Like, let's just do this.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm in training right now for that, because that's all of life with a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. It's
Yes.
just like, what is the big deal? Put your shoe on. Let's get out the door.
I know.
But you don't know what's happening under the surface. So I guess maybe that
Right.
helps me with my lens too, of I am in a long-term marathon training of supporting these developing brains and trying to help people I don't understand.
Yeah, yeah, and then I think like the dance also includes, okay, like when is something really going on under the surface, and when are they just being kids, right?
Sure.
When are they just being like, I don't want to put my freaking shoe on, so no, like,
Right.
and then there's that hole that comes into it, and you're like, okay, like, so there's just so many pieces of it. So
Right. Like, when do I get support from a professional
right,
versus when do I just take 5 deep breaths?
exactly. Right.
Man, so I hear what you're saying too about the field and how hard it is to get help, because that is true across the board.
Mhm.
One of my number one piece of advice to an expecting mom is, even if you don't think you're going to need it, find a therapist while you're pregnant and start meeting with them. Because if
Mhm.
you have your baby and you do think you need additional support, you're not going to, in that moment, want to find somebody and build a relationship,
Oh my gosh, yes.
especially all the no's that you get. It's a game. It's like dating. You have to put out all these applications and all these emails and phone calls, and hopefully you find somebody accepting a patient, and then
Yeah.
eventually you might get an appointment, and hopefully it's a good match. And
Mhm.
Whoa.
Yes.
And if you don't hit the right match the first time, then you're probably not going to want to try again. So, yeah, find a therapist while you're pregnant if you can. And if not, find one now because you might need it later. I found a wonderful therapist who I am so happy with that I just see like every 6 weeks, even if I don't think I need it, because I want to keep my relationship with her for when I do need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love that. That's great advice. 100%.
Now, what kinds of strategies have you found? You've tried a lot of things. You've been working your hats. You've been trying things that I'm sure you were like, I'm never doing that again. I'm never saying those things again. What are some hits and what are some misses?
One of our favorites is, and even now as my kids are older and in their teenage years, we do this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding exercise. So it is 5 things that you could see, 4 things you could hear, 3 things you could smell, 2 things you could touch, and 1 thing you could taste. We make it a game.
Yeah.
Even at 16 and 14, they're in it and they're ready for the game and they're like, let's do this. And then of course it becomes competitive. Who could find more things, but it snaps them right out of whatever they're going through. Because when you have anxiety or when you're starting to feel panicked, or even my son with his ADHD that his brain's going everywhere, anxiety, I feel like it's more like, okay, I'm focusing on this one thing. And my son's he's everywhere. So I kind of need them both to like pull back in, especially with their anxiety. So this is a way to get them both to focus on other things than what's going on in their brains. Like I said, we still do this. We were in an airport not too long ago, and there was a lot of people and it was hot. And I saw my daughter started breathing a certain way. And my son starts tapping his foot. And I was like, okay, here we go. And for that day, actually, instead of the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, we just decided, hey, who could find the most things that are red?
Ooh.
And they went like right into it. And they were like, oh, that one. And they're counting. And then they're like, no, I found that one first, And like I said, I mean, they're older and they're still like, just sibling
bickering.
Bickering, which at that point I loved. I don't care that you're bickering because that's it. You're back.
Yep.
You're focusing on something else and you're calm. So those are like my absolute favorites, just because it really gets them engaged. It really gets them involved and they enjoy it. Anything, because I have done in the past, tried to be so structured and been like, no, you need to do this, like, no, you need to do this breathing exercise right now, and you can't be like that. It has to be, especially for kids, they have so many things that they have to do.
Yeah.
Everybody's telling them what to do, when to do it, how to do it for their mental health. They just need something that it seems fun. Yeah. Oh, I like doing this. And they don't realize that it's even work, that they're even doing something for themselves or that they're supposed to be doing for their mental health. So definitely that. We do breathing exercises. We do a starfish, which I love. You take your hand. This is great for like little kids. Yep. You take your hand like a starfish and you breathe in here and then you hold it and then exhale. Ooh. And then the same all the way around. That one's a lot of fun and they still do that one too. Yeah. We used that when they were little, but they love that one too. We've built these toolboxes and I will say some days like what worked yesterday might not work today. Yeah. And I think that that's important for all of us, because I think that I was once in a space, and I'm sure you could relate to this and everybody can, where you're like, oh yeah, like, oh wow, walking made me feel so good. And blah, blah, blah. And then one day you're just like, oh, I don't want to do this. Yep. Like, no, I don't want to go outside. We have to listen to our bodies, and we have to, just because somebody says walking's good for your mental health, if you're really like, no, not today, then it's not today,
Right. That's not good for your mental health to force yourself to do something.
Exactly. Yeah. But I think that we get stuck into these like, well, I'm supposed to journal. I'm supposed to take a walk. Yeah. I'm supposed to take supplements. I'm supposed to do this, meditate. Because that's the checklist. Yeah. And it's not a checklist. It's, you have to check in with yourself, which is something that I have my kids do as well. And I do it too within my morning routine. What do I need today? How do I feel today? Right. Do I just need to sit and take some time to myself? Do I need to move my body? What do I need? So I think that like a morning check-in for everybody is really helpful.
That's great. Yes. There was an episode with Blair and we talk a lot about mindfulness. in your day, right? Not
Mhm.
just like, we're not talking meditation, we're not talking doing a yoga practice, we're talking filling your water bottle and doing a full body scan and checking in,
Yes.
where's your tension, where are the things like that. It can change the whole course of your day.
Yeah, definitely.
And I love your 5 4 3 2 1. I love anything observational like that because you always have
Mhm.
it. You can always
Yes.
use it. So for a young kid, that's probably way too much. But like you said, just find the red thing. So in your head, think about the five senses
Mhm.
and, or even I guess the seven, right? When you think about vestibular and proprioception. And
Yeah.
if you don't know those, I should do an episode with those because find some TikToks and Instagram reels about those. It's life changing. But go through the senses and think, where could I tap in right now? Can we
Mhm.
spin? Could we find something to taste? Could we find something to smell? Like, if you're in the airport, can we find the smell of popcorn or something like that?
Yeah.
Really, really great observational skills that are good for any age.
Oh, yeah. Totally, definitely.
I love to hear that it doesn't stop because honestly, when you think about all these things you do with kids, I'm like, I do this too. I'm just an adult and can initiate it myself, so it
Yeah.
doesn't stop.
No.
I love it. You're in this teenage years now. Tell me some of the joys of having teenagers because I think I get worried. I think about my kids getting older and I get sad. But I
Mm.
love to hear about the good things that I have waiting for me.
I mean, the best thing is that they're like 2 little best friends,
Mm.
and I know a lot of people say that as well, but they really are. I mean, we sit, we gossip, they'll come and tell me stuff in school, we'll go grab coffee together, we hang out, like, they'll show me and I think that's an important piece of it too, like, they'll be like, "Oh," like, they'll save TikToks to show me, and then
Oh, cute.
then we sit down together and we, like, watch the TikToks. Do I have 1,000 things to do, like, clean my dish? Yeah, but they're not going to want to do this forever, right? There's going to come a time when they're not going to want to sit and show me TikToks anymore. So let me just take the time to do that. But I'm loving it. I'm loving the teenage years. Watching them like become who, like one step closer to who they're going to be in the world and what they're going to give to the world, I think is just it's just so amazing. The best part and the worst part of motherhood is watching your kids grow up or as your kids getting older because I obviously miss them as babies, but it's such an amazing thing to see them just grow into adults. It's wild.
Oh, that's wonderful. And even with your boy too, because that's
Yeah.
something as a boy mom I like think about. I'm like, I'm not gonna have that relationship. They're gonna
No,
grow away.
no, no, no. My little boy.
I know. I love you say that. That's wonderful.
I said it to somebody in the store the other day. I said, "Oh, he's my baby boy." And they were like, "He's a big baby." I'm like, "He's
So
still my
what?
baby." Yeah, I'm like, "Baby, shut up." We have a great relationship and he's so sweet. He'll come and he'll sit and he'll talk and he'll be like, "Do you know what happened today?" And blah, 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 blah. I'm listening to you talk and I just think that that's something that comes from you. And I think that he's going to feel that love and he's going to feel that you still want that connection with him. Yeah, I think you'll totally have that.
That's good news. I will
Yeah.
I will hold on to that.
Yes, 100%.
I love it. So tell me about some of the exciting things that you're doing with your online presence and your small business because I know you have a lot in the works and going on. Tell me about those projects.
Yeah. So as I've gone through my journey and all of these things, and then as my children got older, there was a piece where not too long ago, I was like, who am I now? What am I doing? Because they don't need me as much and they're out with their friends and they're doing their own thing. And there just came this time when I was just like, huh, like I'm a mom. I do mom things. Okay, now I'm not doing so many mom things. What do I do now? Which is definitely something I think for like all of you moms with littles, try your hardest not to lose yourselves because I completely lost myself. I was a mom and that's all I was. And then I actually did start journaling, little journal prompts with who am I? What do I want to do? What makes me happy? What brings me joy? What am I passionate about outside of my little home here? And I mean, it's mental health. I'm just so passionate about it. I advocate so hard for it. So I decided to create a digital course for parents to help their children with their mental health, to see the signs, to the tools, the resources that they may need, all of this research and all of this Googling that I did kind of in one spot. So you don't have to go to 15 different places. I sprinkle in some personal stories, and I just really want to help people, and I want to collapse that time for them because I know how difficult that was for me going through it and going through it alone. So I'm just trying to build this community, build the support, just kind of help others, because our youth are in a mental health crisis. And I think the way to help them is to educate the parents, because if we're not educated, we don't know what to look for. We don't know when they're struggling or when they're just being defiant, right? And how you could help them and all of these things.
That's amazing. You are so right. They are in a crisis. I was working in middle schools and high schools before I became a mom, and the number of kids that were hospitalized for
Oh
mental
my
health
gosh.
issues on a weekly basis was astonishing. And I think it's because, I mean, obviously there's many factors, but one of the factors is the pressure. There
Yeah.
is so much pressure, and we as adults feel it as well. So one thing that I think we can do from an early on place is start to model how we deal with that pressure. And like, as I'm hearing you say, find who you are and don't lose yourself in it. There's pressure in that too. So trying, one thing I would say to model is start by whittling that down, because that doesn't have to be big. You don't have to have this big hobby that you pick up. You don't have to become this like master knitter or whatever the thing is. Your hobby, your passion, your person could be just journaling 5 minutes a day, leaning into whatever the thing is. Listening to some music that you want to listen to could be the thing that you do when you have no other time. But not feeding into all of the big pressures of I should be doing this, I should be doing that. And like I hear moms say, I should be doing letters more with my kids.
Mhm.
And I think there's no should. You will do it. They will get it. Just let it fit in naturally. So what are some things that you can suggest for moms to do to help to model not giving into that pressure or dealing with that pressure? What can we do?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is, like you said, like just lead by example. When my kids were very little, I would say things as I was doing it,
Mm.
like, "Oh, I'm gonna take some deep breaths. Oh, wow, that feels so nice. Oh, I feel so much more relaxed now. My shoulders aren't as tense. Do you guys wanna try it with me?" And, like, stuff like that, like, when they were very little, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I wanna try that." So I would go about my day sprinkling in these little things, again, without it being a full lesson of, "You need to take care of your mental health. We need to do deep breaths. We need to do this. We need to do that." And as I would do something for myself, or I would just talk through it. Even if there was something stressing me out, I'd be like, wow, like I'm feeling really kind of stressed right now. So what should I do? Sometimes I would even turn it around and be like, what do you guys think I should do? Like, I had this conversation, it was really kind of heavy, and like, or I have this deadline, I have to get this done, but I don't know. I'm feeling like, oh, anxious or stressed about it. What do you guys think I should do? And those responses sometimes were just so funny,
Yeah.
but then it lightens the mood and you're like, "Oh, yeah, I should, right? And I shouldn't worry so much." A lot of what we did was a lot of conversation, but conversation like that, just like sprinkling it in and just kind of constantly talking to them.
I
And then listening. The active listening is, just great. Having them know that you're there, you're present. You want their input. They're important too. So I think that's just all of that. And I always stressed that nothing is more important than their mental health.
Mm.
Like they would stress over test grades. I wouldn't. And I would constantly reassure them. It's one test, not a big deal. This does not define who you are.
Right.
I think just with us, if we're going through something, share it.
Right.
Not to the point of it being so heavy, obviously,
Mhm.
but share it in a way that they could understand it, because kids are so observant and they know anyway. So you may think, oh, I'm hiding this and I'm keeping this in, and they don't know what I'm going through, but they're seeing you and they're watching you and they watch your body language change and all of those things. So I think just opening up and being like, oh, I had a really rough day today.
Yeah.
I had a really rough day. Should we just sit down and put our feet up and hang out on the couch? Because that's what we should do after a rough day. Like just kind of those little things.
That's really refreshing to hear. The like being a sportscaster, right? Talking about everything you do and is something that we should do just for vocabulary development
Yeah.
and all of those things anyway. But to share what's going on in your head can teach so much, the mental health strategies, the coping strategies, but also problem solving and logical reasoning, those kinds of
Mhm.
things. It's well beyond. So if you can start to really develop that, that's huge.
Yeah.
And then asking your kids for input. I love that because they start doing that right away. Like my 3-year-old will ask me, like, if I'm crying, Mama, why are you crying? And then like the other day, my 1.5-year-old opened the pantry door onto my foot and it hurt so bad. And my 3-year-old goes, Mommy, you should be wearing socks. And in the moment, you're like, thanks.
Yeah. Great.
But it just goes to show that they are taking this information, even if
Yeah.
they won't use it themselves necessarily, and they have it. So if you're asking them for their knowledge that they probably are already soaking in, then that's empowering them to feel smart
Yeah.
too. So cool.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And listening is so important in so many ways. My 3-year-old was started to run away from me at the library, to the point where he would just leave and start running down the hill. And nobody would stop him because we live in a society that very few people notice their environment around them. So there's this
Mhm.
3-year-old leaving past security guards, past librarians, down out 2 doors down, and everyone's like, he's that way. He's that way. Thanks. Thanks for the help. I appreciate that. Yeah. The message he was sending me was, Mom, I hate the library. Why
Mhm.
are we going here? So we stopped going to the library. Did we stop going anywhere? No. Did we stop reading? No. But that library situation, for whatever reason, was not vibing with him.
Yeah.
So listen, if they're giving you a behavior over and over again, they're telling you something through that. And you just have to play detective and try to figure out the root.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I love that you did that because, so many times, like, I know with my own kids, when they would do something like that, or when they would be like, I don't want to go there, I don't want to do that. And it would like kind of freak them out a little bit. My parents, who are obviously of an older generation and a completely different generation, would be like, you're giving into them too quickly. You're the parent. You tell them this is where we're going. And that's the end of it. And in my head, I'm like, why would I torture this child? Like, why would I? It's the library. Like, we could still get books. We could still read. We could still do all of those things. Like, why am I going to make not only my child's life harder, my life harder too? Because then you're running after, your kid
Right.
down the thing. And it's like,
Carrying another one under your arm, and then you have
yeah,
to go back in and get your stuff. It's humiliating.
yeah,
And I'm kind of embarrassed about it. I still feel when people will ask me, "Oh, do you go to the library?" I feel that I do still feel this need to explain myself about why I'm not doing it. Like I'm defending my choices as a parent, but
right.
even though I shouldn't, but I do.
Mhm.
That's how you feel. So, but that there's all these other things you're giving them. So
Yeah.
this one thing or these 10 things, whatever they are that you're not doing for whatever reason, you have your reasons. Your kid
Yeah.
having your reasons, and they're going to be social. They're going to meet other kids. They're going to play and talk and do all the things, even if
Mhm.
you don't go anywhere. It's going to be fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep.
Oh my goodness. This has been so much fun. I can't believe we've been talking for almost an
I
hour.
know.
This goes so fast. And we could continue talking because this conversation is so rich and there's so much to share. And I feel like I still need to be siphoning more of your knowledge and wisdom out because it's huge to hear that, yes, your kid is going to be okay. And
Mhm.
yes, you can be working on these things. And even if you have major concerns about them, it's a work in progress and you didn't screw it up. You didn't do something wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us where we can find more of your gems and wisdom.
So you could find me on Instagram at Andrea T. McGrath. And I have a Stan store linked up in my bio, and there's actually free resources over there. There's one for parents with like younger kids. There's just how to get a conversation going with mental health and with your children, and a little breathing resource of this really cute like rainbow breathing. It's adorable. There's journal prompts over there. So there's a lot of free resources. And then I pop in and out, and a lot of my content is obviously based around mental health, how to find a therapist, all of these things. So you could catch me over there.
Awesome. Great resources. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your time and all of this wisdom. And I look forward to following you along for more. If you'd like to share your story, please reach out to me. You can send me a DM on Instagram, or you can email me at boldlittleminds@gmail.com. You can connect with me on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, all the things. Make sure that you share this podcast with your friends. Leave a rating, review, and make sure you subscribe on whatever channel you're on, or multiple channels if you are so inclined. And I really appreciate your time in listening. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.